so this week's drug of choice is Dianabol, or methandrostenedione. There's also known as methandinone. I can never say that properly, so that's the best you're going to get out of me. Now, from a point of view of an anabolic to androgenic ratio, this stuff has a range, it has a scale. Androgenic ratio is 40 to 60, so it's quite mild on that front. Anabolic is 90 to 210. So it's primarily an anabolic steroid. Obviously it's an oral. It has a half-life of 6 hours. Now, it normally turns up in 10 or 5 mg, but I have seen it in 20 mg tabs as well. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about the background of this stuff because it's quite an interesting story. It was developed by CIBA Pharmaceuticals, spelled C-I-B-A. And it was developed with a guy called Dr. John Ziegler. Now, Dr. John Ziegler was actually a physician for several of the American Olympic teams, including the weightlifters. Now, he had seen, particularly in the Russian teams, guys having health issues with using massive doses of testosterone. So he primarily developed Dianabol as a sports drug, and it's really the only steroid that's ever been developed at its primary source as a sports drug. Other ones have all come about through research development or pharmaceutical development. Now, when it was originally launched, he started putting his athletes on doses of between 5 and 15 milligrams a day. And there was a marked improvement of the performance within the American teams at the Olympics. However, very soon started to take a lot higher doses. He was very much opposed to this, and in fact, within 10 years of developing Dianabol, he was campaigning for the withdrawal of steroids from sports use and testing, and became very anti-steroid. Now, it was deemed to be effective in the treatment of dwarfism, and that was the medical excuse that CIBA put out to actually produce this drug as a pharmaceutical product, because obviously you can't produce a drug and say what it's for sports use. But it didn't last long, and as a result it was soon discontinued. Now, it is generally regarded as the most effective oral steroid. I'm not saying it's the strongest by any means, but overall balance between results and toxicity, etc., etc., it is regarded as one of the most effective. Now, it does come as an injectable, and it's normally about 25 mg per mil, but you don't find it that common. And it is now recognized that this thing has no medical use. So, like I say, though under the guise as for treat for dwarfism, it was really developed for the American Olympic team to boost their sports performance. Now, chemically, it's very similar to boldenone, undercyclate, or basically equipoise. But its effects are quite different. It's actually shown to improve bone density and overall calcium and potassium retention. Like most orals, it shouldn't be taken with food because it will bind with, it will be soluble with the non-processed dietary fat and will pass through your gut. So you're better to take it on its own. Now, it is aromatized, so it does convert. But it is regarded as fairly mild, and so not everybody's going to require estrogen control with it, and if you do, stuff like tamoxifen and Overdex is probably going to be more than ample. You shouldn't need to run anything like an AI. You'd have to be a freak of nature when it comes to estrogen suppression to need an AI if you're using Dianabol. But water retention is common with it. Now, it does convert DHT, but its percentage of conversion is very minute. So really, running stuff like finasteride isn't going to have any major effect at reducing DHT related sides. So if you find you've got hair thinning, etc., you're just going to either stop usage or put up with it. There's not really a lot you can do. Now, as all drugs, yes, it's got a cardiovascular effect, obviously lipid value effect, i.e. cholesterol. It's going to reduce your LDL. So it's going to increase your LDL and reduce your HDL. Apologies for that. So it will increase your bad cholesterol and reduce your good cholesterol. It is not particularly gentle on the liver. Now, the only doses that were ever done the only studies that were ever done were doses of 10 milligrams a day. And this showed very little liver stress, but when it was bumped up to 15 milligrams, there was a rapid increase in liver stress. So, like all oros, it's going to have issues with the liver. And don't be thinking because it's a common one and it's commonly used and it's so popular that it is relatively stress-free, especially at higher doses, it can be quite demanding on the liver. It will cause shutdown. In fact, a dose as low as 15 milligram daily has shown to reduce production by 69–70%, if I remember rightly. So, even on an oral only cycle, you're going to need to run some form of PCT. You're probably not going to need to run HCG in a full-blown, and an oral PCT will for most people be suffice, but you're going to need to run PCT. Now, doses-wise, well, these range massively. I've known doses be as high as 120, 150 a day, and doses as low as 50. Personally, I prefer to run 20 mg 3 times a day, so 60 mg total. The main reason for this is because of its half-life. It helps keep blood stability and help keep things nice and level, so I prefer small dosing on regular intervals as opposed to one large dose a day. And that is really it. It is probably the most used oral in the world. Excuse me, a bit snotty. It has been around since the 1960s. It's regarded as being the breakfast of champions. But no, I mean, it is a common drug and it is well used, and it is well used for good reason. It is effective. But just keep an eye on those liver values. Make sure you don't eat it with food and space your doses out, and you should get some pretty good results of it. And that is really it. Oh, from a female point of view, I wouldn't. If you really want to, you're looking at doses of 5 mg or less a day. You shouldn't be really running anymore. But I would not recommend it. And that's it, guys. So, on that note, I will go, and I'll catch up with you soon. And next week, I think we will do Anavar or Sandra and then probably Winstrol, and then we'll go. I might do Halo and a few of the other orals, Superdrol, etc. before we start looking at the injectables. But I'll try and get one up a week and continue this as a little mini series. I'm not bothered with an update video this week because there isn't really much to update, to be quite honest. So, take care, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.